multiple legs as a single bet on one game. Raising the odds and elevating your experience. Because you pay attention. Because you know more than one angle. And see more than one object.
Hello there, lovely. Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Daylight. And Tuesday, it's business as usual. It's Business Tuesday this morning. I'm your host, Tapelo Joe Smarter, going with you till the hour of 9 in the morning. Tell us where you're watching us from. Are you watching us from Kabwe? Are you watching us from Kitwe? Are you watching us from Livingstone? Are you watching us from Mongo? Are you watching us from Kasama, Mporokoso? Are you watching us from Petauke, Sinda? Where are you watching us from? This is Daylight, and today we discuss or we bring you business as usual on a Tuesday. So stay tuned. Tell your friend to tell their friend to tell their friend that Daylight is on this morning, and we are going to the hour of 9. So we'll start globally, then we bring it to Africa, then lastly we'll zero it down to Zambia and see what business trends have been happening in Zambia. Are businesses still suffering the devastating effects of COVID-19? We are yet to find out that. So stay tuned and don't go away. Remember, there's a number that will be scrolling on your screen. You can come through, leave your message there, or call us, better still, and let's hear from you. Tell us where you are watching us from. Visit our Facebook page, KBN TV. Leave a comment there or contribution. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is KBN TV. And if you're watching us via Tops a decoder, definitely it's channel 102. You can't miss us. We are now showing in most parts across the country. Okay, first things first, we start in India. Yes, you heard me right. We start in India and see how business trends are currently taking place there, and if at all they are still facing or suffering the devastating effects of the global pandemic COVID-19. So stay with me and follow me closely. Okay, so India's diesel sales expand for the first time in 8 months. Now, Dejit Chakraboot bookmark. Okay, diesel sales in India clocked the first year-on-year gain since February as annual festivals boosted demand for the country's most consumed fuel. Sales at India's top 3 fuel retailers rose 6.1% from a year earlier last month to 5.76 million. Okay, so those are the headlines coming out of India in terms of business, and we have heard what is currently happening in India. Okay, now airports authorities list. Okay, the Airports Authority of India on Sunday midnight handed over the Lucknow airport to the Adani Group on lease for a period of 50 years. The AAI had handed over the Mangaluru airport to the group on October 30 midnight, the central government in February. Okay, those are interesting headlines. These are the airlines teetering on the brink of COVID-19 ruin. Okay, let's look at some of the airlines that have been affected due to the devastating effects of COVID-19. And top on the list, we have we have airlines that are teetering on the brink of COVID ruin, and this particular airline, having a home government with deep and open pockets, is emerging as key in terms of whether an airline will make it through the coronavirus pandemic. Carriers in jurisdictions where there is scant support from up are high. Okay, markets have turned high as investor optimism rises ahead of the US presidential election on Tuesday. And need I remind you that today, Tuesday, as I present Business Tuesday today this morning, bear in mind that the US is going to the polls. Yes, you heard me right. Donald Trump, the incumbent president, and his rival Joe Biden, yes, today they are battling it out. So let's stay tuned, and let's follow the election closely and see where this takes us. So markets have turned high as investor optimism rises ahead of the US presidential election on Tuesday today. The three main share indexes in the US all gained early trade on Monday, reversing course after sharp falls last week. Oil prices also turned positive in US trading hours after earlier hitting a 5-month low following fresh virus-induced lockdowns. Countries including the UK, France, and Germany recently tightened rules. The news hit financial markets worried that the new lockdown measures would further dent economic growth and cause demand for oil to slump. In Asia, trading hours, the price of Brent crude fell to a low of $35.74 per barrel, a level not seen since last May. But it later recovered, turning positive in London, helped by strong manufacturing data. Now, the price of US crude oil has also been hit hard, falling as much as 7% on Monday to a low of $33.64 a barrel before turning positive. But the price of Brent, the main benchmark for oil prices, remains down 45% from the start of the year. Okay, now share prices rose in a broad US market rally because of the election that is taking place today. It has affected the prices in the oil market in the USA, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average of up to 1.7%, the S&P 500 advancing 1.3%, and the Nasdaq up 8% by mid-morning trade in New York. Concerns that the results of the US presidential election would not be known for weeks have weighed on markets, but hope that the US will avoid a messy and contested election outcome has risen among investors, as post-show challenger Joe Biden maintaining his lead over President Donald Trump in key states on the eve of Election Day. Investors are also optimistic that the conclusion of the campaign will return attention to the debate over economic stimulus, ultimately pushing Washington to advance spending plans to help the US economy recover from the pandemic downturn. Okay, so observers say, whichever way you look at it, this coming week will be huge for US and global markets. Notes Simon Ballard, chief economist of First Abu Dhabi Bank. He further says he sees the potential for a sharp rise in volatility around these events, and all in the context of a still deteriorating COVID-19 situation across much of the US, Europe, and elsewhere. Now we move on to China. China remains the most upbeat market for economic growth this year. The world's top crude oil importer said on Monday it would raise its quota for 2021 by 20% for non-state-owned companies. This came after activity in China's factory sector accelerated at the fastest pace in nearly a decade in October as domestic demand surged. This was according to the Chinese Market Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, a private survey which focuses on smaller to medium-sized companies. Last month, China continued its recovery from the pandemic with strong economic growth during the third quarter. According to its official figures, the world's second biggest economy reported growth of 4.9% between July and September compared to the same quarter last year. Okay, so that does it with Business Tuesday on the global scene. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. When we come back, we'll be focusing on the region of Africa. Stay tuned and don't go away.
Good evening, class. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Introduction to Economics. We call this class Economics 101. Now, this is the introduction to this very interesting field. It is a social science which is essentially got to do with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Now, economics is a very interesting concept because it affects all of us. And numerous other economic concepts like supply, demand, and Pilato, what's happening?
I'm swooning.
Pilato, are you okay? Okay, if you were paying attention, define economics.
Pilato, me I don't know. Kale my number. Mfweni economics ya mkabuba. Ndasonkela patinshi bomba. Narina na mufya kulomba. Economics ya mkabuba. Economics ya mkabubiri. Economics ya mkabumba. Economics ya mkabubiri. Chila bushikumba dizi Ninge kabona benzi Pakusongiri la kendo Fika bonzi pa midnight Fika fitna lala Tabafundulu waku main house Owe osu kapanya 2 rice Gabu kamuposhe good morning. Economics ya mkabumba. Economics ya mkabubiri. Economics ya mkabumba. Economics ya mkabubiri. Abanandi bali bana majobu okumfaila ko job chira shupa pati daily banje bafakupa okunzenda kubwalwa nilionze pati kuma business banja panze nsala isanga na mona stove so daily mbuka kuma 12 avoiding a breakfast time. Economics ya mkabumba. We economics ya mkabubiri. Economics ya mkabumba. Economics ya mkabubiri. Budget mpanga mu bantu kubwanga kukulya kuli kantu nga ndefwaisho kumoneka ko bwino kulipopa fena chiwawe nalasa kona chiwabe na posta na pafuma social ama likes kumona bakumayati nawa mana low budget. Economics 101. Economics ya mkabumba. Efetwa ikala yama. Economics ya mkabubiri. Economics ya mkabumba. big money. Economics ya mkabomba. Tukusha. Economics ya mkabobili. Economics ya mkabomba. Hey, aye. Economics ya mkabobili. Abengi mcharo tubomba na economics ya mkabomba. Hey.
G-Show Records production.
It's feeding people their gratification. Quincy waiting, you're not cooked up again with a little spice. Better.
Okay, thank you so much for still joining us on Daylight Breakfast Tuesday, Business Tuesday, like we like to call it. So thank you so much. If you're a business enthusiast, come through, send us your text via the number that is scrolling on your TV screen, or you can still inbox us on Facebook, that's KBN TV. You can still subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is KBN TV, or tune in to Topstar on the Topstar Decoder channel 102. Okay, so we are talking business this morning, and we bring it closer to home. We bring it to Africa and see what Africa is up to partially post COVID-19. Measures have been relaxed. Businesses have started operating normally, and it has now become business as usual. But let's bear in mind that we need to uphold the health guidelines that have been stipulated, and just to make sure that we mask up, we maintain social distancing, and we make sure that we keep safe. Okay, moving on now. Let's go to Nigeria. Now, Nigeria has pledged to help Chad make light of its electricity woes. Okay, let's find out what's happening in Nigeria, and they are pledged to help Chad. Okay, despite the shortage of electricity supply in the country, the national government is negotiating with the Republic of Chad to begin supplying power to the North Central African countries soon. Emmanuel Ade writes this day that a meeting was recently held between the Nigeria team and Chad Energy Minister Ramatu Houtoin. Nigeria has its own share of electricity woes, and this is impacting heavily on the economy and small business growth. The government's recent decision to hike electricity prices was not well received and led to several protests. A few months ago, the Canadian ambassador to Nigeria, Abaka Chachiami, asked that his country be connected to Nigeria's electricity grid. This, he said, would further enhance the historical and economic collaborations between both countries. If the agreement is eventually reached, Chad will join a number of countries that depend partly on Nigeria for their electricity needs. Okay, so that's coming from Nigeria, and they will start supplying electricity to Chad. So follow me closely. We bring it closer to home across the Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. Okay, so apparently Zimbabwe's first lady is in the headlines, and let's find out. Okay, so according to the Bloomberg, Zimbabwe's first lady implicated in gold smuggling racket. Okay, the first family has distanced itself from an attempt to smuggle 6 kg of gold out of the country. In a statement, First Lady Auxilla Mnangagwa said, "I do not engage in illegal, narrow-minded pursuits like gold smuggling." The gold was found in possession of Miners Federation boss Henrietta Rushaya at the time of her arrest. She and co-accused Gift Karanda said the gold belonged to the Zimbabwe First Lady Auxilla Mnangagwa and her son Collins Mnangagwa. When he came into office, President Emmerson Mnangagwa vowed to tackle corruption, but his administration has been accused of shielding the real culprits while using less powerful people as scapegoats. So that's coming out of Zimbabwe, and we are yet to find out. We'll follow this this matter with close attention, and yet to find out what the investigators will establish eventually. Okay, so moving on. Stronger partnerships spotlighted at US Africa Investment Forum. Okay. Now, in a major push to spur greater trade and investment in Africa, the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, DFC, joined with the Atlantic Council to sponsor an online convening promoting the Trump administration's signature Africa initiative, Prosper Africa. The 4 sessions of Investing in Africa's Future on October 16 included 3 African presidents, leaders of major African finance institutions, U.S. government officials, and representatives from the U.S. and African private sector. Since DFC was established by Congress in 2019, the agency has taken the lead in the administration's push to increase two-way trade and investment between the United States and Africa, with DFC Chief Executive Officer Adam S. Boiler serving as Prosper Africa Executive Chairman. Okay, awesome. Now moving on, small-scale miners popular in... Okay. So that wraps up the business edition on Tuesday. Regarding the region, the African region, we go on a break. When we come back, we focus on Zambia and we look at business-wise Zambia and what has been trending, who's up to what and who's doing what. So stay tuned. Don't go away. Tell your friend to tell your friend. It's Daylight Breakfast, Tuesday's edition. It's business as usual. Stay tuned and don't go away.
Yo, they started with potential but the finishing token everything the wood like the vanishing. This is that moment of the blemishing, quite the right garnishing, top dog menacing. I've been in this pot like a cooking stick. Your favorite rapper made me and it took a pic. Modern day Victor like a chaka. Flu give him silence and I ain't talk a chucker. Sing simmer, man I've been at it for some time, no dilemma. Who got the keys to the beam? My big rim, I feel a long time trying to kick it like Benzema. Everything man I do, them better know. Biggie man, don't let your dream die. Pick it up, we wish a guy. You got a chance, it's better die try. Early in the morning when you're feeling kinda low, you have to pull up. Everything a man a done already, them want kill it. Them want the man done already, them got a plan. Them up to get to pan already, but that fire can never touch sun. We are ready, there's a must. But we won't get it in a rush, you can feel the passion. Jungle fever in a person, need a precaution. We have to get it, there's a must, no lie, must, no lie. I got the plan for the city blacks, must fly. My boca day winning. Biggie be there, my brother stay spinning. I seen the green light, I seen the green light, I seen the green light. Give me good signal. I seen the green light, I seen the green light, I seen the green light. Give me good signal. Everything in what you pop. Everything in what you pop. Everything in what you pop. Take it to the floor, to the floor.
Let it breathe like, just let it breathe like, you let it breathe like, yeah, let's go. We not looking for the short term, we only looking for the long term. If it's available, why not? Kungena mutikutia wanze whether ni teacher olo ni sele buchibaba kusenza penzo lo PM hurts kuchira na no reply in your DM. They never could tell you kabaoneka when you see them. Something like Adam in the Garden of Eden. They never show tisa kila ma organizer tisa chitika monga batila ma fertilizer tisa kati pesa sechikulu tipema monga ni kurata na ma
But we won't get it in a rush, you can feel the passion. Jungle fever in a person, need a precaution. We have to get it, it's a must, no lie, must, no lie. I got the plan for the city blacks, must fly. My boca day winning. Biggie be there, my brother stay spinning. I seen the green light, I seen the green light, I seen the green light. Give me good signal. I seen the green light, I seen the green light, I seen the green light. Give me good signal. Everything in what you pop. Everything in what you pop. Everything in what you pop. Take it to the floor, to the floor.
Let it breathe like, just let it breathe like, let it breathe like, just let it breathe like.
This is magic.
thank you so much for still joining us. And remember, at exactly 8:30, we get into our headline segment for this morning and find out what's trending in the headlines. But for now, we continue with Business Tuesday, and we're zeroing down to Zambia and find out what's trending in Zambia in terms of business, who's up to what and who's up to what. And the most interesting headline that came through in terms of things that have to do with business and the economy, of course. Now, Jerabos reject 1.7 million kwacha from Mopani. Okay, now small-scale miners, popularly known as Jerabos, yesterday rejected a 1.7 million kwacha charitable donation from Mopani Copper Mines on grounds that the money was too little. MCM mobilized the youth at an event held at Nkana Golf Club, which was officiated by Minister of Mines and Mineral Development, Richard Musukwa, to hand over the money realized from the sale of the ore to the youth. Usakile Member of Parliament, Pavyuma Kalobo and Kitwe District Commissioner Chilesha Weupe were also part of the meeting. But after the pleasantries were made and it was time to present the check, there was murmuring amongst the small-scale miners. Awe chapesha, techo, tuabombere, awe chapesha, techo tuabomberecho. That is too little, that's not what we worked for. Translated, they complained as the MCM Public Relations Unit lifted the 1.7 million kwacha dummy check. Okay, so there you have it. Jerabos reject 1.7 million kwacha from Mopani. This incident took place, the event rather took place on Sunday when Jerabos rejected 1.7 million from Mopani. Okay, moving on. Copper export earning hits 12 billion kwacha. Okay, that's an interesting one. Zambia's refined copper export earning in September increased by 20.8% to over 12.7 billion kwacha from 10.5 billion kwacha in August due to improved prices on the international market. During the period under review, copper prices on the London Metal Exchange (LME) increased by 3.3% to $6,712 from $6,496.7 per metric ton. Zambia Statistics Agency Statistician General Mlenga Msepa said the volume of refined copper exported in September increased by 10.4% to 98,428 metric tons from 89,195 metric tons in August. During the same period last year, Zambia exported 51,586.4 metric tons of refined copper, while the price on the LME. Okay, so that wraps up our business segment in terms of Zambia. The first one was that Jerabos rejected the 1.7 million kwacha that was given to them by Mopani, and at a particular event in Uzakile on Sunday. And we now move on into our headlines segment for today. We find out, in case you missed our main news yesterday, don't despair, because we are here to make sure that you are informed and you are up to date with what is currently happening in terms of current affairs. Okay, so yesterday, President Edgar Lungu congratulated Dr. John Pombe Magufuli of Tanzania for his re-election in a landslide victory that saw his rival being left miles away. So the head of state did send a congratulatory message to his counterpart, the Tanzanian president, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. Okay, now another headline, Justice Minister says failure of Bill 10 will work to the advantage of the ruling Patriotic Front. So this was a very interesting one, as most of you, our viewers, might be aware. Bill 10 on Thursday fell off. It didn't manage to garner the necessary votes to see it being enacted into law. So now the Minister of Justice is saying failure of Bill 10 will work to the advantage of the ruling Patriotic Front. Okay, let's find out a little bit more what the minister had to say in detail. Now, Justice Minister Given Lubinda has wondered why the opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, and some sections of society celebrated the failure of Bill 10. During a briefing yesterday, the minister told the media that the failure of the bill will advantage the ruling party. He accused the opposition of having nothing to talk about now, since Bill 10 was the only campaign message they had. The minister says Bill 10 has exposed the opposition that they are scared of the president's candidature. And there has been a debate on the eligibility of the president. Some are saying he's not eligible to stand or contest 2021 general elections. Some are saying he is eligible. Yesterday, on a video that was trending on Facebook or on social media, that of Patriotic Front Deputy Media Director Antonio Mwanza, Mr. Antonio Mwanza, he was clarifying the matter of the eligibility of the head of state. So we are here to find out. Let's continue with what the Minister of Justice had to say yesterday. So he continues to say, the issue of President Lungu's eligibility was long dealt with by the Constitutional Court, but stated that the ruling party will not stop anyone from challenging it in any court. Okay, Mr. Lubinda says he will ask the president to go ahead with the political party bill to ensure that the parties who have run away from democracy will be indebted to it. Okay, so that was the Justice Minister yesterday. But the highlight of the whole event came through when he forgave Martin Mambwe. Now, Martin Mambwe is a PF sympathizer, PF supporter, or if you like, Patriotic Front cadre, who apparently assaulted the minister at Kabwata Market last year, and he was forgiven by the minister yesterday. They reconciled, which is a good thing for democracy and for Zambia. Okay.
Martin Marikwele, the same day when I came in court, when I came in court that very day, I forgave you. I forgave you that very day because it was clear to me that you were used.
Okay, so that was Justice Minister yesterday, Mr. Given Lubinda, the Kabwata lawmaker, at his office, the Minister of Justice headquarters in Lusaka, reconciling with Martin Mambwe, the PF cadre that apparently assaulted him at Kabwata Market. Now, Martin Mambwe, I beg your pardon. Prior to his pardoning, Mambwe was given a 2-year jail term in August this year, and was yesterday accompanied by his mother, Beatrice Chama, at the minister's office. Mother supporting their children, very important. So Mr. Martin Mambwe has been forgiven by the Minister of Justice there. Now, moving on, there has been a video that has been making rounds on social media, and it has gotten the attention of the police, of the Zambia police, not just the Zambia police, but the IG, Mr. Kakoma Kanganja. Okay, so the video alleging that the PF plans to turn the country into chaos has gotten police attention. Not just police attention, but that of the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kakoma Kanganja. And I have seen the video. I watched it yesterday. I watched it this morning. It is very disturbing. And for the sake of the peace that we've enjoyed and for the sake of good morals, I think it shouldn't be circulated. I, for one, do support the statement by the Inspector General of Police. Now, the Inspector General of Police says is dismayed over the video circulating on social media alleging that there is a scheme by the ruling Patriotic Front government to plunge the country into chaos. Mr. Kanganja says the video is marred with images of dead bodies all over in the streets and people hacking each other. It is a very disturbing video, I must say. He says the video is bent on inciting violence among the general citizenry and also incite people to rise against the government. Mr. Kanganja has since called upon members of the public to avoid panicking but treat the video with utmost contempt it deserves. He says such type of propaganda is dangerous for a peaceful country like Zambia and must not be entertained. The police IG has therefore ordered his officers to immediately get down to the bottom of the documentary and bring the perpetrators to face the wrath of the law. Okay. Very disturbing video. I have watched it. I have seen it. It's a very disturbing video. If you are a well-meaning Zambian out there, I think it shouldn't be in your place to circulate such kind of a video. Okay. Now, Mr. Zambia, the Media Institute of Southern Africa, has called on government and the police to step up efforts to address the impunity against journalists. Mr. Zambia chairperson Helen Mwale says incidents of harassment that have recently been recorded undermine journalists' safety in Zambia, thereby having an impact on their ability to report the truth. Mrs. Mwale says the acts of intimidation and harassment, which take on physical abuse, verbal abuse, and a non-constitutional directive that requires radio stations to notify Zambia police before featuring an opposition party, especially in rural areas, are a source of concern. Okay, so that's Mrs. Zambia chairperson, Madam Helen Mwale, getting concerned with the safety of us journalists in the country. And I must say that we need to be protected, it being that we are the fourth estate, and we bring to you whatever is happening. Talk about whatever you've seen, whether it's on social media, on reputable Facebook pages, of course, whether it's on TV like KBN television. Right now, we make sure that we bring you balanced, accurate, and trusted news. So without the journalists, without that camera person, without that reporter, without that technician, definitely you won't be able to know what's happening in the country. Just imagine if a day passed without listening to the news, without watching television, without knowing what's happening in the world. It would be a dark day, of course. So we are important as journalists, and I definitely agree with Mr. Zambia chairperson, Madam Helen Mwale, with her concerns, especially that we are going into an election year. We're only remaining with a month minus to go into an election year, so definitely we need the protection that we need as journalists so that we can bring accurate, balanced, and trusted news in Kasaba, in Porokoso, in Chipata, in Luangwa. So make sure that you do protect us, because you need us at the end of the day. So we go on this clip and find out what Mrs. Mwale had to say.
Mr. Zambia joins the rest of the world in commemorating the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. We wish to re-echo the call for Zambia to set up efforts to protect journalists and intend the truth. The above stated day commemorates journalists who on a daily basis suffer from non-fatal attacks, including torture, enforced disappearances, arbitrary detention, intimidation, and harassment in both conflict and non-conflict situations. Every year, the United Nations marks the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists on November 2nd. This year, the day is celebrated under the theme Protect Journalists, Protect the Truth. As MISA commemorates this day, we wish to state that the number of incidences we have recorded that undermine journalists' safety in Zambia are having an impact of their ability to report the truth. For instance, the number of incidents of censorship against media that provides platforms for persons with opposing views have been on the rise and is worrying. The censorship takes the form of stopping of live or recorded radio programs.
Okay, so that was Mrs. Zambia chairperson, Mrs. Helen Mwale there, giving her statement regarding the safety of journalists in the country. We need it, it being that we'll soon be going into an election year and a whole lot of things happen. Hence, we need all the protection that we need so that we can be balanced, accurate, and trusted. Moving on, Zambia has continued recording a downward trend in the COVID-19 cases, with only 63 new cases recorded in the last 24 hours. Now, Health Minister Dr. Chitalo Chilufya disclosed yesterday during a briefing in Lusaka that the new cases came from 5,771 tests conducted during the same period. Dr. Chilufya says the cases recorded came from Ndola, Kitwe, Lusaka, Solwezi, Chingola, and Kabompo. Meanwhile, the minister stressed the need for the country to avoid the second wave of the pandemic, which is being experienced in some countries such as the UK and the United States of America. Here's a clip from the minister.
63 cases in Zambia out of 5,771 tests done in the last 24 hours. No deaths. One patient in admission at Levi Manwasa Medical University, and 6 patients in Solwezi that are admitted. We continue to see a downward trend, but we continue calling on the public not to relax, because we should avoid the second wave. More than 100 countries globally are experiencing resurgence, second waves of COVID-19, and are shutting down. Do we want to get back to that situation? No. The trick is, let us adhere to the directives that His Excellency President Edgar Chagwa Lungu has always announced, and ensure that we do not have a resurgence.
Okay, so like we keep on emphasizing on daylight breakfast, and I mentioned it earlier, we need to make sure that we continue upholding the health guidelines that have been stipulated by World Health Organization and our very own Ministry of Health. And you've seen the minister there re-emphasizing the need to make sure that the country does not experience a second wave of the pandemic that is being experienced in countries like the UK and the United States of America and so many other countries worldwide. So there is a second wave, and hence we need to make sure that we uphold the health guidelines. We are not yet safe. We have to make sure that in as much as the measures have been relaxed, partially relaxed, we have to make sure that we still uphold the health guidelines that have been stipulated by the Ministry of Health, and the minister keeps on emphasizing. So let's make sure that we oblige, and let's make sure that we don't have the second wave of the pandemic. Now, moving on, the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, says the failure to pass Amendment Bill number 10 has diminished the hopes of women who have been yearning for more representation through a mechanism built into the electoral system. YALI President Andrew Ntewewe has therefore stated that women will remain campaign dancers for MPs who failed to give them the right to be represented in Parliament instead of being active participants. Mr. Ntewewe has also said that no one should complain about the Public Order Act or the failure by the court to nullify an election when violence is seen but no candidate or agent was involved. Mr. Nteweo says the nation and political players must prepare to play to the same old public order and electoral rules which they have complained about. He further explained that the failure of Bill 10 has put the delimitation process in jeopardy, as no delimitation of constituencies can happen. Okay, here's a clip from Yali President Andrew Ntawewe.
Both the Public Order Bill of 2019 and the Electoral Process Amendment Bill of 2019, which were deferred by government at the insistence of UPND, will never see another day in Parliament. That is the ramification of what has happened in Parliament and the failure of Bill number 10. The nation and political players must prepare to play the same old rules of the Public Order Act and the electoral rules which they have complained about. All this thanks to UPND. Even when there is clear violence in an election, such as the one we know.
Okay, so that is Yali President reacting to Bill 10 and it's failing off. And he's squarely putting the blame on the opposition, the United Party for National Development, and those that didn't vote for the successful enactment of Bill number 10. So, like you've heard from Yali President, people shouldn't complain about the Public Order Act. People shouldn't complain about an election not being nullified in case of violence. Okay, so moving on. Harry Kalaba outlines, just received, Harry Kalaba outlines his priorities as agriculture and industrialization, which will lead to Zambia's economic recovery. Now, before I go into detail about this statement, tell us where you are watching us from. If you are from within Lusaka, are you watching us from Garden? Are you watching us from North Mid? Is it Rhodes Park? Where are you watching us from? Is it Chadley? Come through and let us know where you are watching us from. Matero, I know Matero is watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Where are you watching us from? Is it Kwa George? Kwa Mrs. Where are you watching us from? We need to know where you are watching us from. Do you have any news items so that we can come rushing with our cameras there? Okay. Now, Democratic Party, DP, has reiterated that Zambia has enough resources that, if put to good use, can improve the economy and subsequent end the high poverty levels being experienced in the country. This is achievable once right policies are put in place. Now, the DP leader continues to say the party believes that agriculture and industrialization agenda remains the solution to the problems the country is currently facing. DP President, who is also the 2021 presidential candidate, Harry Kalaba, observes that Zambia's challenges are driven by leadership crisis, which has failed to put in place policies that lead to economic emancipation. Mr. Kalaba added that the failed Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10 is one issue that should not have been considered under the current economic pressure. Okay, so he was speaking on a radio program at Radio Maria in Chipata. Okay, so we come to the end of today's edition of Daylight Business Segment. I hope you enjoyed the business segment. We're just running through the current affairs. In case you missed some of the news items that were highlighted yesterday, coupled with news that came in today, so I hope you enjoyed that. And just a big shout out to the KBN family that is tuned in via our Facebook page. Too many names to mention, but we'll still get to mention a few. Make sure that you do the same. Come through, leave a comment, and let's get interactive. But unfortunately, we are wrapping up the show, and you just have to join the ladies tomorrow as they bring to you Wednesday's edition of Daylight with their Woman Crush segment. Okay, so our Facebook fan club page, KBN. We had Thomas Ngala tuned in, and we had Stumbeko Mubukwanu all the way from Congo. Make sure you bring something nice from Congo there, my brother. We also had Vakizi Homi. We also had Maron Aaron. Okay. We also had Mr. Kasoni Yamba. Katongo Kasi Kaluwa, long time. Thank you so much for coming through and being part of a Daylight breakfast show. You have been very supportive. We appreciate your association with the Finest Television, of course. Martin Liyungu as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Liyungu, for coming through. We appreciate your association with the Finest Television in Zambia, across the borders. We are now in Congo and the rest of Africa and the world as well, because we have our Facebook page where you can be able to watch us. We stream live, and of course our YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on anything. Okay, then okay, so this was a text from Bakizi. Thank you so much, my brother, for coming through. Okay, so this is Tuesday's edition of Daylight. We had the business segment, and we ran you through the headlines that we had this morning. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in via our Facebook page, those that subscribed via our YouTube channel, and those that are at home watching in that office, in that bedroom, in that living room, watching us via the Topset decoder. We don't take you for granted. We appreciate you. You make us who we are, and we thank you so much for your association with the Finest Television in Zambia. I'm leaving you, unfortunately. I'll see you on Thursday. Tomorrow, join the ladies. I have been your host, Tapelo Joe Smarter is my name. Good morning, Zambia, and remember, one Zambia, one nation.
Betway's Fortune Score is back and better than ever. Play our weekly soccer predictor where you can win your share of an amazing cash prize each week. Simply choose the first goal scorers in 4 selected matches and submit your selection before the first match kicks off. Entry is free, and if the prize isn't won, it'll roll over to the following week. Bet your way with Betway.